you, Brian. Really appreciate it. Okay, great. Now that we're being recorded, just a welcome to the Community Economic Development Committee meeting, and we just approved the moving on to item number 2, adoption of minutes. Looking at the minutes from September 25th.
Just one sec.
Yep.
Okay, I've muted it. Sorry. It's my first day back for a while, after a while, so I've just
Yes, well,
good.
Sure. Do you need me to repeat anything, Sarah?
No, it was just a little bit echoey there because I hadn't hit the mute button.
Okay. So just going on to item number 2, Brian, I did see just before had forwarded a few revisions to the minutes.
Yeah, so I'll move the minutes subject to those changes. It just minor matters such as the start time. I think it was 12:05 as opposed to 3:05.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. And just opening up, are there any other revisions anybody would like to raise? If not, Brian, thank you for your motion to adopt the minutes as revised in your email. And do I have somebody to second the motion?
Lorraine, seconded.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. Fantastic. Moving on, item number 3, public comments. Do we have a member of the public joining this meeting? I don't believe so.
Nope, that I can see.
Okay, sounds good. Excellent. So just moving on then to item 4, subcommittee reports. I think the big chunk that we really want to take a look at today is the newcomer guide. Looking at the latest edition that was added to the meeting invitation. I, for one, only took a very brief look at it. I'm just sort of saying this on the fly a little bit. Do we want to take a few minutes just to walk through it briefly? Maybe do a shared screen and walk through it. I'll just open it up to the committee members, or are we all familiar with it and we don't necessarily need to walk through it? What are your thoughts?
Kirsten, it's Brian speaking. I think that all of us probably have a few typo or grammatical errors to correct, and I know that staff is still working on a few things as well. So I guess I would suggest that we could just do that offline with staff. It's probably the best use of staff's time, and simply amend the recommendation to put it forward to Community Council in its present form, subject to any technical, minor, or grammatic changes in discussion with staff.
I do have one, maybe a comment. It looks great, looks awesome, especially now with the graphics. But we are a very creative island, and maybe on that front page, instead of a baseball team, we could have some artists or someone creating art, or maybe a hub from the arts tour. It does bring in a lot of revenue into our community.
Well, it's funny that when you raise that, Jamie, because I'm just looking at it, we do have 2 photos that are, they're somewhat similar in the sense that there are people gathering on the docks. We do have the ferry. We do see some lights in this celebration, but the 2 are somewhat similar. So I'll just kind of throw that out as I think basically is great, but wondering maybe if we could swap out one of the photos that's on the dock with people with, to your point, showing artists or showing more of a creative theme.
Kirsten, or through the chair.
Yes, thank you, Steph.
So we did set aside a bit of time. I agree with Brian that we can do the typos and smaller bits offline, but we did set aside a bit of time to review in this meeting. And there were 4 questions posed in the email for members to consider. Photos. Do you like what's there? Do you have other ideas about photos? Content. Is the content relevant and true? Is there anything missing? Structure. Does the structure make sense? there is some repetition, but feels necessary, and does that work? And then typos and grammar, which I think can definitely happen offline. We don't need an total overhaul because so much time has already gone into this, but like those kinds of comments, like I'm actually, what comes to mind is there's like some great photos of the lock block wall art being created. We've got tons of those. But maybe we should just take the time to kind of go through it, and people can say like, oh my God, there's something totally missing that's been forgotten. And we can do that here with the time allotted. I share screen.
Sure.
Okay.
So Steph, I think that it's Brian speaking. I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay.
We'll follow up individually on the small stuff with staff, but in terms of the bigger picture stuff, I guess one thing I noticed when I started doing a read through is I think that maybe a link to a list of all of the Bowen Island clubs might be a useful thing to add to it. So that people can have a quick reference if in fact they do want to start joining some clubs in order to fit in. Is that possible, Steph?
I think there is a list. You're just suggesting that each one have a link associated with it?
Yeah, exactly. Make it easy for people to
Okay.
know
So
who to
include-
contact if they want to join such and such an organization.
Okay, include links in the clubs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
so this is the here's the guide. So Welcome Neighbor, Newcomer's Guide to Bowen, second edition. And there was a suggestion of, yeah, these two crowd photos, maybe one of those can be art. And here's the table of contents, similar to the other version.
Is that table of contents going to have active links to the parts of the document?
Probably. So just the person working on this, her name is Cecilia, and she's done a great job of doing both graphic design and some writing content, and actually having quite a historical knowledge of Bowen. So she's been a great person to throw into this. I will add that link table of contents. That's probably easy to do. Thanks, Lorraine. And here's a little preamble. Next section, top tips for newcomers. That's very Bowen book, buy local, get to know your neighborhoods. There was a bit, Cecilia had an idea to like do a little bit more about renting. There was a fair amount of discussion of purchasing in the last version. So there was a bit more added about renting, which I thought was very inclusive. And then number 6, breathe, soak up the whole island. Number 7, make friends, find your people. Number 8, prepare for winter. 9, health emergencies and mental health support. That was another significant addition, was to add a bit about mental health.
Mhm.
And then she's got these lovely bubbles here, insider tips and good to know and island life. Does anyone have any comments on the sort of big picture of this section?
I like the information. I like the bubbles. The photos are great. That map of the neighborhoods
Yeah.
and the type I find quite small. So
Okay.
is this a printed thing that people are going to be looking at?
So this will be
Or
both print and
online?
digital.
So digital, yes, I can probably make it bigger, but
Okay.
it's pretty small type.
Okay. Okay.
And I know that makes it longer to make bigger type, and then the 2-column format for a map like that maybe that map should have its own page.
Yeah. Okay.
Or, alternatively, all the different neighborhoods could be, you could list them, I don't know, 1 to 15 or 1 to 20, and then have the name of the neighborhoods on the side.
Can you flesh it out a bit? I'm not really understanding what you're saying.
Well, for example, Cape Roger Curtis could be 1, and then you would have, so instead of saying Cape Roger Curtis in the map, which
Oh,
you would just have 1, and then you would just have the enumerated neighborhood,
right.
like where you have the neighborhood map. So you go 1 Cape Roger Curtis, 2,
Okay.
3.
I like the idea of a full page. I think it might just be a little busy if you did it all via legend like that, Kirsten. And it is kind of when you, as a relative newcomer to Bowen, like when you hear the neighborhoods thrown around or like the visual of seeing it all together, I like. And if you can put it on a single page, I don't know if we're page limited here, but it's honestly it's the first time I've seen a map like this ever. It's helpful for me now.
Oh, great.
It's- I've been here 11 years. That's the
Yeah.
first time I've seen that too. It's really
Great.
nice.
Like
I remember I
got a
was
hill,
here for
news to
about-
me. So
Yeah, and it would, right now, some of the roads are missing, like they've been overlapped. Depends the layering, so it might just be the production of the map. But if you try and follow where you're going, like how do I get to this neighborhood?
Oh,
Realize, wait, the road disappears in the valley.
yeah. I don't know that it's a road map. I think she's just sort of trying to lay out where
Yeah.
the neighborhoods are.
I have a question. I mean, because I have looked at Bow Map and things like that. I'm sort of because and also make the map for Tourism Bowen Island, the visitor guide. Is this actually current? Like, for instance, don't we have is Arbutus Ridge considered, or Arbutus considered a neighborhood, or is it part of King Edward Bay? And then the other thing. Things like Woods Road, I always thought that area was Grafton Bay. Carter, I never knew that. So I'm, having been somewhat familiar, I'm just wondering, are these the official names for some of these places? And do we have everything listed?
Okay, well, so Woods Road, sorry, one note was Woods Road is Grafton. What did you say, Grafton?
I always knew that area as sort of, I thought of Grafton Bay.
Grafton Bay.
There
Okay,
is a
the
little
other question
section
was-
there. Yeah, there is a little section there that where Grafton Bay is, but it's a very, very small section there.
If this is official, it's totally fine. I'm just saying, and I keep hearing people talking about Arbutus Ridge and things like that.
Okay, I can follow up with planning, I guess.
And
Yeah.
the other one is Carter. I never knew that was like what it was.
Same.
Never heard of it.
It's
Okay.
Brian speaking. I guess on that note, there's also Valhalla, which is the top of Channel View, and we've always known it as Valhalla for the last 35 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh-oh. Because there's probably no official naming of and boundaries.
yeah, this could go on forever. I'm thinking, yeah, we have Dorman Bay as well. Okay, that's enough. I'll follow up with planning about this current and accuracy of this map. Is that okay if I move on?
Yeah.
Current
okay, thank you.
inaccuracy and looking at making it a full page. That's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's noted.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we like these bubbles, and I think this can you see my cursor? Swinging around there? Does that
Yeah.
show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, at this card, I think she added that on, so she'll probably do some organizing of this text to make it a little better. But okay, now we're on to these island do's and don'ts, which were so fun, and this great witch photo and good to knows. So again, we want to kind of be broad strokes here. If you have something specific, you can send it offline, but we're good with this general approach.
I have one question. It may be in here, and I didn't specifically review this page, but the budge in the ferry line comments.
Yeah.
Are we officially saying that filling the gaps is not island etiquette with this?
Filling the gaps is our bylaw. We're allowed to fill gaps.
Because then this seems counter to that, and I guarantee you,
So where does that, what is it? Don't budge or cut into the line?
cutting into the ferry line and filling gaps are just different perspectives on the same thing, depending on how they're phrased. So
Oh, I think budging is like when somebody cuts in front of you, like this happens a lot at the four corners when you let someone turn left or
Yeah.
whatever
I
direction,
just make
and
sure
then they
there's
go
the
into line.
positive phrasing of filling gaps somewhere in here to count.
Okay. Okay.
And I've never heard the word budge used in the way that you've used it, so it was a bit confusing to me as well. What you meant.
Okay, but when you're saying you, I didn't write this, just to be clear.
I'm
but
sorry. I
it's okay. No,
apologize.
I'm not saying I would be ashamed of having written it. Just want to be super
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
So just a sec. Use positive terminology
I mean, you could say
or fill the gaps.
cutting in line
Um,
as a
and
I mean, if you're new to the island, cutting in the ferry line and filling the gaps feel like the same thing.
okay,
It's
That's
a
a really good
nuance that
perspective.
I don't think you would get.
yeah, that's really good perspective. Thank you. Don't say budge. It's weird. Okay.
Yeah, budge is not clear. And you could
It's like
flatten,
a little kindergarten classroom, I guess.
cut into the ferry line too, cut into the ferry line when it's moving.
Yeah. Okay, so that would require a bit of explanation. Okay.
Also, do we have, we're speaking of, there's two uses of budge in the island don'ts. Don't drive too fast. I don't know, should it, follow this post-it speed limits, or, I live near the school and I'm doing the speed limit sometimes through the school, and people will go into the ferry line up to pass me, like if it's clear. So I don't know, maybe one of those budges could bring that up. The other thing I would like to point out is idling in the ferry lineup. I walked by a bunch of cars. It's cold. I walked by half a dozen cars the other day. Like 5 out of the 6 cars are idling because they're not prepared for cold. I also see it in the summer when it's hot and people are idling because they want their AC. So I just want to make sure somewhere. I thought we had that somewhere, but
Jody, it's Brian. I think it is in there. I'm quite sure I did read somewhere no idling in line. So I think it was covered off.
okay. But if we're talking about, we're talking about a bit of the ferry lineup, I'm just wondering about.
Maybe it's in the ferry section. Like I said, there is some overlap in this.
Yeah.
But in our necessity. Okay.
But I mean, this island don'ts, there's a bunch of things about, first of all, I wanted to say I haven't had a chance to go through this with, on a quiet time, but there's a number of don'ts which involve the ferry lineup, of course.
Yeah, so the ferry lineup's got its own, it was 1 page, and then the feedback was to make it even 2 pages because it was so crowded. So, I mean, one might even almost not put any of the ferry stuff in the don'ts because there's a whole chunk of ferry area.
No, but it is important, obviously.
It is important, yeah.
Yeah. And it's the one for locals and visitors that causes so much confusion.
Yeah, I noticed there's a don't. It's so funny. We put do's first to be sort of positive, and then of course a do not snuck in there. It's so hard not to say that.
You could just make a island don't or you could make it, phrase it positively and say like do follow ferry etiquette rules and then have a hyperlink to the ferry section kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, just a sec. Do follow ferry etiquette rules and hyperlink to ferry section. Okay. So let's move on. Oh, then we have the good to know.
Sorry, I just want to emphasize the point about the first one, island don'ts. Don't like drive too fast. Should we be saying follow posted speed limits? Like, because don't drive too fast is like, oh, well, okay, I just won't drive too fast. And that's all kind of subjective kind of thing.
Yeah, because 100 kilometers an hour is just too fast for me.
Yeah, okay. So it'll be like, do follow posted speed limit. It can say something like, it may feel slow if you're used to being in the city, but that's the speed limit here. So slow down. Like that. Maybe a slug. Little slug mascot there. Okay, can we move to the next one? The good to knows. This seems like an overview. Government, how things work, education, list of education opportunities, social scene. And she's got a bit about the Legion, all the different opportunities there. Any comments on that?
We might have overemphasized the Legion in the numbered things as well. Like each paragraph had a reference to the Legion.
Okay.
You can promote it, but it also might be somewhat imbalanced.
Okay, I will make a note of that. Okay. Next page.
Hey, Steph, sorry,
Yes.
Sat here. Apologies, my computer, I don't know if you guys, I joined and then it crashed, so I'm on my phone.
Okay.
One of the things, I guess there's two things, but on the good to know side, and this is just kind of like newcomer, and we have an emergency, like we mentioned NERP once, or maybe it's twice, but I think it's really just once in a paragraph, but it might, like, that might be another, I think it'd be important to reference that more than just once in this document, just so.
NERP.
Yeah, just so people are aware, like
Okay.
like you get a newcomer on the island, if we have an emergency, like,
Okay.
you know, they
So,
exist and
is
they're
that up
really
here
important.
in this emergency section up here?
Yeah, it's mentioned once.
Section is going to need its own page too, isn't it? So,
It's kind of buried in there a little bit, I feel like.
okay.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just really important.
Okay.
The
Thank
newcomer.
you.
Yeah, I just want to, people access information in different ways. So where somebody might look at a bullet form, like I like the island do's and don'ts. I like that. It's something that people would tend, their eyes will go to that, quick points, and not maybe get the fine details reading through a whole paragraph, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bullet points. Okay. I'll make a note of that too.
Well, I think they're great. So
Yeah.
there's no harm in writing a paragraph where NERPS is mentioned, but maybe to Sat's point, it should be mentioned in bullet form as well, something about emergencies.
Okay. Okay, so now we're down here, community and amenities, art studios and galleries, sports and recreation, more ways to find your way. It looks like these are like specific events. A growing up on Bowen section. And then connecting with history section there. I think Sarah, growing up on Bowen section, I had pointed out to Cecilia that it's quite similar to the education section. So she was like, I don't have kids, I don't know anything about kids. I need someone else to do those sections. So, and I think you were gonna help out with that.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that. I'll have a
Okay.
closer look at that.
All right. Hey, a couple things I've noticed is maybe like the paddling witch is a great photo, but it's already been used once.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
banner. That maybe is where the Bowen Island Arts Tour could be promoted. Again, you know, it's good promotion for our island. It's a great event. It's a new event. Maybe that could be switched out.
Yeah.
Also, you know, I apologize, I haven't looked through this in great detail, but I'm noticing that the Bowen Island Arts Council is being used as a name as opposed to the Hearth. We are now the Hearth.
Yeah.
So if that could all be updated, that would be really great. Because that's a bit confusing. It doesn't have to be the Hearth at the library annex, because it's not, it's just the Hearth Gallery.
That's on my list of edits for her. Yeah.
Sorry, pardon me.
That's on my list of edits for her.
Okay, great.
That
Thank you.
jumped right out at me as well.
Okay, good. And then maybe it was Brian that mentioned something about hyperlinks. I know it's a lot of work, but every time there's a web link, can it be hyperlinked? Just to make it easy for someone to click out of this and into something that they're interested in.
Yeah, I don't think it's a lot of work. I think what's happening here is that for the printed versions, we do the extended link so people can see them. And then for the online version, we hyperlink. So there's two versions being planned, the hyperlinked online version and the printed version.
Okay, awesome. And then, sorry, I'm just going to say a bunch of things all at once. I think it was also Brian that said something about links to local clubs. I think that a list needs to be, I mean, these are people that are coming to a community and they want to get involved either to a club or as a volunteer I don't see a list. What I see is a list of Facebook pages. But, there's a lot of people now that do not connect with the Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say, in light of a lot of changes happening with Facebook, I'm, not that changes that are going to be happening over the next 6 months. We don't want to print this and all of a sudden it not be relevant from a social media or an online point of view. Meantime, if our default should just often be the Bowen Island municipal website.
Yeah, I mean, people are used to going on Facebook if they want to find out more about a community and joining into pages that interest them. But I think it's really important to list our community organizations like the Painting Club and the Sky, the arts, things like that. I think that's what people it would be harder for them to find a website to join a painting club, for
So
instance.
do you know where a list like that exists, Jamie?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
The phone, excuse me, the phone book, they list organizations. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. But if we get that list I can have a look at it. Like I've done that for our website too, different places. So
Okay.
I can have a look at that and contribute to that if needed.
So phone book for a list of organizations, and then I can get, maybe if you guys want to send me, like Jamie, you just rattled off 3 groups I've never heard of. If you want to just pop me groups that you don't want left out, pop them by email, and we can ensure those are included.
Yeah.
And Jamie, if you can also send me the photos of the arts tour that you're speaking of, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll talk to Marie Nays about that because we're not part of that.
Thank you.
But
Okay,
also,
so
sorry, one more comment about volunteering. I don't see anything in here about volunteer for your community. Maybe I missed it.
why do I feel like it's in 1,000 places? But
Oh, okay. If it's in 1,000 places.
no, I'm saying I feel like it, but I mean that's in a few different versions. So we're here. Amenities, growing up. Hold on.
Maybe we need a section called how to get involved or engaged or
Well,
volunteer.
it's under finding your people, there should be something, right?
What page is that, Roger? Well, I don't even have page numbers on here, so that's right. But
Page numbers.
It's number 7, so it starts as number 7.
up at the top?
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm giving you a stroke with the scrolling, guys. Oh, here, make friends and find your people. Okay, so clubs, recreational sports, and then
It's like 2 words there, right?
Not quite the same as volunteering.
Yeah.
okay,
and
so maybe more
contributing.
emphasis on volunteering. Okay. Okay. Volunteer.
A lot of organizations struggle to find volunteers. And if it's hard for a newcomer to find their
Yeah.
organization, let's make it easy.
Yeah, we could put it into island dues as well.
Oh, okay. This is great feedback, you guys. Thank you so much. This is really good. Include volunteering in island dues. Okay. Okay, great.
I'm not particularly liking on that whatever page that is. So before you got here, connecting with history. Oh, hold on. What's
This
going on?
one?
Oh, maybe. Oh, you've changed
Not you.
it. Okay.
But
There was a subcommittee working on this, and there was a hired person working on this. I'm just the one presenting it to you guys.
don't let that go to print. Check Squamish spelling.
No, it
Okay.
won't. There's tons, you guys, this is a draft. There's tons of notes in here. Come on.
Sorry, I'm looking at a PDF that was sent and I see that the photo I didn't like's been changed. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So
Oh, this swan dive photo. Do you guys like
Yeah.
that? Woo!
yeah.
One of
Okay.
Steve's days? No. Okay. Okay, can I move on then on the move? So this is that fairy guide. I think most of this fairy guide, it comes from the fairy guide that Bowen Island Municipality created a few years ago in conjunction with BC Ferries. It has your basic do's and don'ts, snug up, overload, schedule interruptions, medically assured loading. It's just, yeah, all the fairy stuff. I don't want to spend too much time on that right now, but if you guys have something to add there, please do. And then we've got bus, ride shares, more ways to travel, and then rules of the road. And that's where you get into like, be aware of posted speed limits, school zones passing, hitchhiking, horses, kind of thing. Okay. Moving on. Oh,
Sorry, a little stickler about the passing thing. A lot of people don't know that recently the province has sort of expanded that whole safe way to pass and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I like the sort of what common sense kind of way this is written, but I do wonder about should we be referencing that at all, or maybe it's not appropriate.
like provincial legislation?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Sure.
been, you know, it enforced. You have to give certain amount. It's not just like being a courtesy.
Okay, I will look into that. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Okay, and then we're down to some essentials, water, septic, recycling, green waste, power, food, groceries, and restaurants, boating, firewood, facts, bonfires and beach fires. Got a couple of these little circle tips. It's all good stuff. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving because we don't have time for people to be fully reading, which I feel like what's going on here. The quiet reading sounds. Excuse me. Coping with a power outage. That's exciting news for newcomers.
Yeah.
Plants and auto repairs. Tread light, live green. Harvesting, foraging, and poisonous plants. So that was done and consulted with our manager of environment, and I think Cecilia was quite excited about opportunities to, for example, mushrooms. There's a lot of mushroom foragers on the island, and it was ultimately decided that we couldn't risk the liability and took that specific part out. But there is a little section to kind of quietly encourage people to forage. That's a good activity.
Um,
About
I
the
see.
predator, sorry, excuse me. It says currently there is a cougar on Bowen. It may leave tomorrow. So then that's not, it's no longer current to say that it's current.
Okay, yeah.
Is there a place that they can check to see if there's, I mean, probably not as a
Or
Facebook.
something like cougars have been known to visit Bowen or something.
Yeah. Or just any of that. You just take that last sentence out.
Yeah, I agree.
Or just please be safe or something. Be aware.
Yeah, you could, because the fact that we just say usually it's free of predators. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so just take out that last sentence.
Sorry,
Longer free of rats.
Or also, sorry, this is fine tuning, but predators, it's like we're in nature, we have to learn how to cohabitate with the occasional predator rather than being fearful of it. So that kind of approach to it.
Okay. I'll learn to cohabit. Don't be fearful.
Yeah, you could say for the occasional visitor,
Yeah.
we try our best to cohabitate with the
Okay.
occasional predator. Yeah.
Visitor.
Or learn how to cohabitate with the occasional predator, bear, cougar that come, something like that.
Yeah, the occasional visitor. Yeah.
Sorry, to the chair, it's Alex here. Just wondering if I can get on the speaker list for the end of this presentation.
Kirsten?
Sorry, Counselor. I didn't quite.
Sorry, is it possible if I get a chance to ask a question at the end of the presentation? I just wanted to register and I can't get my hand to go up in Zoom.
Yes,
Thank you.
of course.
Okay, I'm going to move on then. And then in the know information hubs. Okay, so yeah, so the thing about Kirsten, you mentioned about using the municipal website as sort of the central go-to. We've tried this over the years. It just never is. Like people never do it. It's like, come to us. Don't go to BIE. We're the source. And then they don't. So we end up like, well, Sarah can speak to this better than me, but we end up sort of stealthily trying to, can you post this over to the other sites that people actually read kind of, but with that in mind, yeah, I think pulling away from
Well,
the book would be,
I guess my comment is, it's a snapshot of today, early 2025, and sort of leave it that as is, but to be aware, most likely things will be changing quite rapidly with social media resources.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm sort of stating the obvious that there's an exodus off of, say, X and Facebook. Other social media platforms are emerging. So
Yeah.
it could be that, the snapshot today, yes, Facebook, Bowen Island, everything else, great source of information as things happen.
Mhm.
But then the reality is, or the likelihood is, this is going to be a year of transition.
Yeah, okay.
I'd
So-
still keep it in because I think it's going to be relevant for a while. Like it will get out of date for sure, but like there's still a lot of good information there.
Oh, yeah. So
I
just
wanna-
yeah, just to be clear, I'm not saying to remove it because, as I said, it's a snapshot of today, and the reality is those resources are there. But I do think whenever there is that same information or that same opportunity to get information, either through the Bowen Island website or tourism website or the Hearth, for example, to make sure that those links are there, because there's not a lot of likelihood that they will be moving, but Facebook will. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So then this list about the semi-secret codes, this is almost a club's list. And there's lots of stuff in here, but the Agricultural Alliance, Amateur Radio Service, Arts Council, that's gotta go. Choir, golf club. Maybe we can divvy that up into like clubs and other. That makes sense?
Yeah, maybe some structure to it would be good. Yeah.
Okay.
And is the important message that it's a semi-secret code, or here's places you
Oh,
can get
I just think it's
involved?
fun to be in the know. Like you come to Bowen, everything's unknown, and like people rattle around these acronyms and
Yeah, it could do double duty for places where you might want to volunteer, or so you know the acronyms, or so that you can get access to something you're looking for.
yeah.
You could say some of Bowen's most famous acronyms and initialisms for neighborhoods, clubs, and activities.
Okay.
Would it end up being a list with a whole bunch of links to it as well?
Yeah, I think that was a comment. Yeah, like make them hyperlinks, I guess, for the online version.
Yeah. Okay. Moving down. Oh, there we are at the end. Beautiful photo.
One more thing about Sky, so seniors keeping young. Not everyone that moves to Bowen is a senior, but there's a lot. And it's a way for seniors to be involved and meet other people, not be lonely. Do we have much in here about Sky? Because I think it's a really key organization.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, good point. Looks like we have that seniors keeping young.
But
I'm just looking for it. Listed here under health emergencies.
Maybe health, mental health. I don't know.
Yeah, it's listed there. Somebody else maybe consider like as a joining thing. So something to join.
Yeah.
For more ways to find your way.
Yeah. What's that?
There. Yeah. Something.
Here. Here and here, right? Okay. Okay.
Dog days of summer really hasn't happened. Certainly not this past year, and the year before it was kind of so. Yeah, so it didn't happen last year. I'm not sure it's going to happen in the future.
Where is this?
Well, just on that more ways to find your way.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Dog days of summer.
Oh, okay.
Snug Cove Music Fest. I mean, they didn't do it last summer. Is it going to be biannual? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe this is just a list of types of things that could possibly be happening through the year, and to keep your eye open for stuff.
Yeah.
Do we have anything?
Well, the round bow and sailing race has definitely been going. That's by the yacht club, by the what? Have we got the yacht club on the Bowen Island? What is it?
Yeah,
Wild-
it was in the list.
Okay. So that's definitely been going annually.
Mhm. Okay.
Anyway, I apologize because I have not gone through this carefully to
Okay.
recommend.
Well, I think we're just going to be seeing this as a dynamic document that, like, there's been a lot of iterations at this point. So I think we'll just take these excellent input, apply it, and then do another update in a couple years with fix mistakes, I think. That makes sense?
But you still want us to read through it and send any other suggestions, is that right?
Yeah, sure. Let's say can give you 7 days for that.
Okay.
But-
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
we're sort of assuming no more structural changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we just maybe do it by Monday? Can we say that? Because I do have Cecilia kind of on the clock here. So let's say by Monday. Get what your feedback. Last call.
okay, so yeah, so any other comments or feedback to provide Steph by Monday? And
Can
also,
you?
yep. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
can you resend the latest version then, Steph? Because I was looking at the one that was sent recently, and I can notice that there's already been some changes from that version. Is that possible? Like the
To
photo?
resend something? Let me just see what the last one was.
The one that you had on screen in some ways was different from the PDF that was sent. That's all. Like there was a photograph I was going to say I want it changed. And when I see
so the last one this is version 6 I was just looking at. And so version 5 went out with the agenda. Okay. And then, did I not send you that version 6? Oh, you guys, I'm sorry.
Steph, you did send version 6, so
I did.
Maybe if we just all confine our comments to version 6, at least there's some consistency from your perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so around version 6. Okay.
Okay, I will resend it then if it just
Oh yeah, somehow in my folder I've got version 4, so there you go. I apologize.
It's okay. Let's just do that. I'll do this now so we get this deadline locked and loaded here. So we're gonna go here. What's pop quiz? What's the date of Monday?
Okay, hold on.
27th?
It's the 27th.
Okay, thank you. So we'll say comments by Monday, January 27th, please. Okay, that's it. I'm not even gonna put anything in the body of the text. It's just in the subject or of the email.
Would it be a good time to add my comments or?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. A couple comments. First and foremost, thank you so much for all the work that's gone into this already. It's fantastic. Second question is around accessibility of this document. This document, as it stands, is not very accessible and probably should be. There should be some work done to do that. But I don't know if that's a better conversation to have now or have out of band and just you and I, Steph, sit down and talk about it.
Can I have one part of the conversation with you now, Alex?
Sure.
Counselor, is so I try to use headings, like instead of just using font size increasing, using the headings function. That's helpful for you, right?
Absolutely. There's just some some other
If I
things
ask
throughout
her
the
to do that in
document.
this document, would that be helpful?
Sorry?
If I ask Cecilia to do that in
Yes, that would be helpful, and it would definitely help. But I can also give a list of other, I don't want to say deficiencies, but just other improvements that could be made.
Perfect. I would love that. So that can happen offline then. Be great.
Okay, perfect. I just didn't want to take up a lot of time in the meeting based on that.
Thank you, Councillor Jurgensen. Are there any other questions or comments in regards to the newcomers guide? Okay, hearing none. Lots of good feedback. Looking forward to a little bit more feedback on Monday, and
By Monday.
By Monday, would we be seeing then the final version then, staff?
No. Nope, you're done.
Okay, sounds
You're
good.
done. So we can do this recommendation to council. So it says, Brian, to your earlier email about further technical adjustments, we do a common term, we just say as amended.
Yes,
And
yeah.
sort of legally means sort of moving forward as well. Like,
right.
So
is that a motion that we should vote on then?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to that point then, that the Community Economic Development Committee recommend that council approve the newcomer guide, second edition, update and revisions made during the meeting and provided by November 27th. Do I have a motion to
I'll move the motion, Kirsten.
Thank you, Brian. And a seconder?
Second it.
Thank you. Moving on. Moving on to item 4.2, Policy Development Committee. I'll turn things over to Brian to take it away.
Great, thanks very much. As everyone may recall, this draft motion was worked on by the subcommittee in advance of Christmas. And council subsequently had a meeting, I think it was on December the 9th, and they did they adopted portions of a report from the planning department, which recommended commencement with respect to the municipal and regional district tax process once again. So that report was adopted in part. I see from the extract from council that with respect to the amount of the tax, whether it's going to be 3% and whether or not the income from that tax is going to be divided 50-50 between tourism and housing, that still is subject to further discussion by a strategic planning committee of council. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think what that means is that some of the recommendations we've made in this draft recommendation motion are still relevant because if we take a look at it, you can see that the emphasis that we are putting forward is that there are some rather dire financial situation with respect to tourism Bowen Island. And in recommendation 1, we are recommending to council that they ensure that there is funding in place to provide at least one dedicated full-time manager to oversee and manage the effects of tourism on Bowen Island, including sustainable tourism management, direct visitor management, and advocate for environmental and community well-being while acknowledging Bowen Island will remain a popular tourist destination. So I think between that recommendation and the background that's contained in this motion, we are concerned with respect to the finances with respect to tourism Bowen Island and the ability to actually manage tourism. Recommendation 2 once again emphasizes that. So recommendation 2 says, instruct staff in consultation with Tourism Bowen Island and Bowen Island Resilient Community Housing to recommence the process to implement the MRDT tax of 3% on the purchase of overnight accommodation on Bowen Island, to contribute to the cost of a dedicated full-time manager to oversee and manage the effects of tourism on Bowen Island, and to fund affordable housing and then it says as appropriate. So we are leaving it to council to determine what the split should be with respect to the proceeds of the tax. But by the same token, we really have emphasized in recommendation number 1 that there should be a full-time manager with respect to the management of the effects of tourism. We've also in this this draft motion, Lorraine actually did quite a bit of work in terms of researching possible funding mechanisms with respect to increasing the municipality's revenues. So you'll see in recommendation 3, we're asking council to provide direction to Economic Development Committee to pursue opportunities to create the business cases to be to use the municipality's assets to earn greater revenues. These strategies might include potential private-public partnerships that increase Bowen's revenues and solve problems for the island. And then these things could include earning loading and unloading fees at the docks, to regularly schedule taxi service, water taxi service, charging market rates for parking on municipally owned lands and roads, adding a newer, higher commercial tax rate, identifying and attracting the types of low impact businesses that would be beneficial to Bowen. So all of these possible avenues with respect to increasing revenues, we're asking council to give some direction to this committee to pursue further investigation on those avenues. Recommendation 4 requests that staff in consultation with this committee to report to council on the best source of transportation related grant funding, as noted below in the motion, for developing a business case for finding funding partners for regularly scheduled water taxis. We may recall this is one of the objections of council is to improve passenger water taxi service. So this once again requests a report and, for the purpose of determining what sort of funding might be out there. And then finally, recommendation 5 is a request. It's a recommendation to council to make a request to BC Ferries that they pursue funding for the Bowen Island route to expand capacity through a public-private partnership with the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. And in the background information, you'll see that Lorraine actually spent quite a bit of time researching public-private partnerships. We did have a call with a representative of the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. It was all quite interesting. They certainly fund larger scale infrastructure projects. It might not be appropriate just with respect to a smaller project like a water taxi for Bowen, but there may be opportunities if the Canadian Infrastructure Bank did partner with BC Ferries with respect to, a larger program that might be beneficial to Bowen. I don't know if Lorraine wants to perhaps add anything to what I've said, particularly with respect to the funding and the private public partnership part of it.
Well, happy to take questions on all that because that was a big load of information. I think the bottom line is the one that we took forward, which is the idea that an already established water taxi company could get operational funding if they were in a public-private partnership to run a regular schedule. And that would help, and that funding would help the seasonal highs and lows, and alleviate the pressure of walk-ons on the BC Ferries, and that the municipality would receive funds from that by charging within the ticket a pedestrian paid the loading and offloading fee. So and we did the numbers, next to property taxes, it actually has a fairly good opportunity there to make some decent money, which is quite in contrast with other forms, and that there are several other institutions beyond the Canadian Infrastructure Bank that might give us the ability to create the business plan and find those funding partners. So it's the Reader's Digest version. Questions?
Thanks so much for doing that, Lorraine and Brian. That's awesome.
Fun project.
Yeah, I agree. Like lots of research, lots of thought, and I think the timing is very good for council to consider this report in light of some of the work that the OCP committee is doing, looking at transportation, looking at tourism, kind of dotting those I's or making those connections. So I think this is really good information for council to receive and for the public to have available. Thank you.
I have a quick question. If we were to start collecting that MRDT today on Bowen, about what is that 3%? What would it bring in right now? I'm it's probably a guess, but I'm
I
just
think it's
how
Brian
far
speaking.
how far that money will go.
Yeah, so Cooper ran some numbers on it, and Cooper, maybe you could address this.
I need to open it up right now, but basically it's not much either way. It's basically enough to pay. Realistically, it's enough to pay for a tourism Bowen Island head and like 4 cabinets in a kitchen and affordable housing, right? Like it's a small enough amount that if you split it both ways, there's not a whole lot on either side. So I think that's where council and the OCP committee and whatnot will need to do the work. It's on overnight accommodation. We don't really allow hotels on Bowen. I know there's Katoki and a few other things that kind of fall into that category. We've adopted the short-term rental ban. And so basically just the tax base for that MRDT is relatively small, even at pretty aggressive occupancy and per nightly rates. So
in the background to the motion, Jamie, what we indicated was that it would be somewhere between 50,000 and 150,000 based on some of the criteria that Cooper has just indicated.
Mm-hmm. And again, just to maybe jump in here, like I think this is great information in light of the OCP, where obviously there's going to be a look at land use and sort of the future vision of Bowen Island, where accommodation, both in terms of tourism, accommodation that supports tourism. So who knows, maybe there will be a recommendation that there's a land to build a small resort for conferences and for accommodation. Like, we don't know. But the OCP is going to be looking at those sorts of things, short-term accommodation, but also housing at the same time. So whatever these estimates look like, knowing sort of what the future vision is that may come with the OCP, that vision from the OCP may then affect the potential revenue in the future.
So I found my file here, and just to give a couple numbers. So the best case scenario, and then you can sort of walk it back from here, using the 102 STR figure from I think it's like last December when that was pulled together. At 100% occupancy, June to August, which is clearly aggressive, 60 September to December, 40% January to May. And nightly rental rates from the averages for Airbnb for those various periods at the 3% MRDT would generate $129,974 a year in taxes. And that's the high end based on the current base on Bowen.
Mm-hmm.
A more realistic version is like $90,000.
Yeah.
So it's not a panacea one way or another, but every dollar counts.
Yeah.
Can I add?
Yeah, right now we don't have any dollars going towards it, so.
Exactly. It's
we're-
any number greater than 0 is a great number.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, go ahead, Lorraine.
I just wanted to say that everything that we've been working on, we've been trying to find the, the return on the effort invested to find those, that revenue for the island. And so the work involved in getting the MRDTs probably going to be substantial, on a number of fronts because it's government. Maybe more private opportunities can get us, or other things that don't require a lot of heavy lifting are going to get us more money faster. But I do agree, anything's better than 0. So
Yeah. Fantastic.
In my, sorry, just one more thing. In my experience from the Columbia Valley, we went through the process of having our accommodators vote on whether they wanted to go ahead with the MRDT. And I remember it being really onerous. It took about a year to set everything up. And then in the end, it didn't pass.
So it didn't pass the first time on a soft vote on Bowen either. So.
Okay. I just, it's not a given that we can collect that 3%. Just, in my history.
That's one reason that we really wanted to phrase it in terms of providing stable funding for Tourism Bowen Island, because I think the same group of people who would naturally say, I'd prefer more money in my pocket than a new tax, can also understand that Tourism Bowen Island, broadly speaking, is very good for their pocketbook. And so if the two are directly connected, it's an easier conversation to get those people to pass it as well. Whereas the affordable housing side of it, if they say you're going to tax me 3% more for affordable housing, it's a harder sell to owners of short-term rentals.
I just want to clarify, nobody operating a short-term rental or accommodation here actually pays the tax. It's a user tax, so it's a way to
Correct.
to get money from visitors. So that, I think,
it's a pass-through.
The first time around, that was not clear with a lot of people. So that's just want to make sure we have to keep saying that. So yeah.
So, to your point, Jody, I would imagine with this sort of vote, having an information campaign would be important. Maybe that was lacking before, but certainly this time around.
Yeah. The whole process last time, given the plan, the way it was just really rushed, and there was not a lot of information. So I've met with Daniel, we talked, and he's very aware and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Great.
one more thing I'd like to add, if that's all right, Kirsten.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just reminding me what Cooper and Jody said, Bowen doesn't have a lot of overnight visitors. We have day traffic, and it's very difficult to find a way for those people to pay for the wear and tear on the island. And so the walk-on water taxi and the loading and unloading fees on the muni-owned government dock allows for that mechanism. And that's why we are more keen, not as that of any of all the solutions we're offering, because of that that hard wear and tear. So yeah. where do we get the return on that?
Yeah. And it has, there's the sort of legal infrastructure is in place for something like that. Like we looked at a lot of different ways. I mean, it would be very easy if BC Ferries would just charge more and we had, resident cards getting on the ferry. That's the easiest way to do it. There's no legal process to kind of differentiate between residents and non-residents as it stands. But with a private water taxi landing on a municipal dock, that all works with existing law.
And in our control versus begging BC Ferries to take care of us.
Can I just add on another comment, and Kirsten, because you're on the OCP committee and stuff like that, I love this way of looking at how we can create more funds in different ways. I just want to put out, I guess officially, that when I look at when the municipality, for instance, they just passed increases to docking at the public wharf there, and it's like $1.50 per foot, you know, so like it's $5 for 4 hours. And or when we're talking about all the rapid development and all the massive vehicles that come over, so and they're chewing up the road and our bridges and stuff like that. I would love to see looking at those fees and are they reasonable to me? Somebody coming to visit Bowen Island paying for a boat for $5 for 4 hours is like, oh my God, they would easily pay, much more than that. Parking in the cove is free, I mean, just sort of filling out, looking at all those business licenses. I look at the charge of the business license and think, oh my God, should we not be charging more for massive cement trucks and that coming over and chewing up the road? Look, I just want to put that on record.
No, those are good points, Jody. Like essentially, our recommendation is to have somebody in charge of tourism, and you would think that with that position, they could also look at other revenue opportunities that do support, making sure that tourism are paying their fair share of accessing the island and enjoying our infrastructure and amenities.
I'm beating a dead horse here, but I want to emphasize that what is unique about Bowen on the tourism front compared to everything else is that the mechanisms that are traditionally in place to counterbalance the overuse of infrastructure by tourists compared to residents are based on people spending the night. And the fact that we are so close to Vancouver and have such high level day use from people who use our infrastructure but don't pay for it in any way, like that is the key problem for council to solve, in my view. So anyway.
Sorry, and just in case my comment wasn't clear, I'm talking about, we've got the tourism, but we also have the broader economic development. We have infrastructure and look at ways that we can also maybe get fees from that. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Joey. Any more questions or comments?
So,
okay, hearing
Chair, what does this look like for going to council? Is this something that who will want to present this, or I feel like Cooper's been quite vocal. Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
I think Mr. Haley is perhaps more diplomatic and used to this kind of thing, if he wants to take it. But and
we have both of you?
Like I did a lot of early work. I think Brian and Lorraine have taken it the last mile. So
why don't we leave it that either all or one of us on the subcommittee would be happy to do the presentation at council. What day is this anticipated to go to council?
We don't know yet. I mocked up a little schedule, but that's based on my paper calendar, not what is going to be. It's often what's going to be considered in other meetings. At the meeting, does it fit well with what's going on? So I have to get a sense of the appetite. But let's get that. Let's get this recommendation going, and I can do the legwork after your recommendation.
Yeah, there's a couple of typos in the recommendation. I'll talk to you about them offline, Steph.
That's going to be Sarah on this point.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah. Do what Sarah can put it up on Scratchpad. We can fix it now. Want to do that?
Sure.
Yeah, I can do it right now.
So we call it Scratchpad. That's our internal, very sophisticated language.
And I'm going to have to apologize. I do have a hard stop at 12:15. I've been chairing this meeting.
The rest is updates, Kirsten. I think we could end then.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay.
So Scratchpad, yeah.
Maybe you could do the Scratchpad offline then, and we can wrap up so Kirsten can leave.
Okay, the community will recommend that council consider recommendations back up. Did you have a correction, Brian, quickly?
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking at page 10 of the agenda. um, midway
Okay, so you're
down.
not looking at what Sarah's put up then. Okay, then I think Lorraine's. Yeah, we'll put
I'm
that
looking at
offline
the
then.
motion itself and the contents of the motion.
Okay.
Okay,
We
Background
can
to
do
the
that
motion.
offline.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's best if we just do it offline. We'll save some time.
So
They're
do you
just
want to
typo. There's nothing of any substance.
So we'll just do that cover page one. Who wants to read that out? Lorraine?
I don't have cover page.
Kirsten, do you want it?
Start reading out the recommendation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the recommendation, this is for a motion, correct?
Yeah.
Passing the motion that we recommend that the Community Economic Development Committee recommend that council consider the recommendations and background provided in the document titled New Sources of Municipal Revenue to Support Sustainable Tourism on Bowen Island, dated November 27th, 2024, and as presented and amended at the committee's January 22nd, 2025 meeting. And to that point, do I have support to pass the motion? Motion to approve.
You need a mover.
Sorry, I need a move. I need a mover.
I will move it.
Okay, and a seconder, please.
I will
I'll
second that.
second it.
Okay,
Put Roger down.
I'll put Roger down. Sounds good. Okay, so Cooper was the firster, Roger's the seconder. Excellent. Then very briefly, updates from the province.
So all in favor?
Oh, sorry, all in favor? Opposed? Hearing none?
Okay.
Passed. Yeah.
I think we don't have time for any of the updates.
You know, I could just very briefly
Oh.
just touch base just from a timing issue that the Rural Island Economic Partnership, they do have a virtual forum that's taking place on March 6th and 7th. So for any committee member who's interested in attending, maybe just take a few minutes to look at their website. I think an agenda will likely be posted in the next little while. So if there's any interest in attending, the theme is really adaptation and resilience in a regenerative economy. So just wanted to flag that for everybody. Unless there's some very brief updates from Jamie or Jody, super brief. I'll just throw that out just for one more minute.
Can I just ask, I don't want to necessarily give an update. Where are we with the business summit that we were going to do? What's our plan? What's the scenario now?
It's on hold until we have a building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Do I seem defensive?
I had a really great report, but that's okay. I can do it the next time.
Oh.
Beat me on the hearth. Just wait.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry about that. I mean, again, I'm happy to turn over if somebody would like to step in as chair. I'm happy to turn the meeting over for another 10 or 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I just have a hard stop at 12:15.
Can we
It's
do
okay.
your report next time, Jamie? And
Yeah, I'll have more report next time.
Okay.
I'll need 20 minutes, Steph. Don't.
20 minutes. Wow, there's stuff
Growing.
going on.
That's interest.
Busy place, and I wanted to report on the community center, but that's okay. That is fine.
Okay, well, then we'll fast track this next meeting to make sure we get this in.
Put me right at the top. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Okay. And then just briefly too, next meeting, did we want to run through that stuff or did you just want to do maybe a meeting poll?
Well, the thing is, I feel like we're just going to be landing at 5 o'clock. I don't know who in this room is going to hate that, but I'm just getting more and more 5 o'clocks.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of our chair and vice chair both have day jobs. The mayor has a day job.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of heavy lifting people that really can't do these during the day. So
It's hard for me.
pardon?
Definitely. It's hard for me to do middle of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
I know
probably for
there's
Kristen
like,
too.
and it's been confusing. We've tried to accommodate and it's just been I hope we don't lose anybody or I hope we don't lose any energy for this, but we just have to make a decision and we tried to play the flexibility thing And I feel like we're just gonna be 5 o'clock moving forward. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
so the next meeting then, do we have a date and a time, Steph, to take note of, or should we do a meeting poll
We could
online?
do February 12th, Wednesday, February 12th, perhaps? Everybody okay with that?
That
Is it-
works for me.
Okay, so next meeting, February 12th at 5 o'clock?
Wednesday, February 12th at 5 o'clock. Okay. And let's, yeah.
Maybe with enough notice, we can all attend.
Yeah.
Yeah, either virtually or in council chambers. Okay, well, on that note,
Thank you.
we can adjourn. Thank you so much.
That's a good work today, guys. That was really
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Thank
Things
you.
well.
Everybody.
Fine.
Happy New
Bye-bye.
Year.
Yeah.
Right.